Okay. Okay, now we're going to receive two parameters, first name, and I'm going to also check if I received last name. We're going to try to use the parameters all in lowercase letters. And we can use comments here. The variables can be with uppercase letters, but the parameters, no. No, dot. That's just a space. Okay, so again, I'm going to send now first name and last name. It's going to be first name, Mary, and last name, Johnson. Okay, the way you write this, you type this part, it has to be exactly the same way as you type this part here. Okay, exactly the same, uppercase or lowercase. Yeah. How many of them? Okay, I don't see it here. Now, Alvarado, if you have port 88, then just type localhost colon 88. If it's green, that means it's good. When it's green, that means it's running. So whatever port you have here, that's the one you're going to type here. Well, I can't do much about the people that are not here. Okay, any questions right now? No questions? Okay. So a lot of what we're going to do is when we receive parameters from the front end, let's say I want all the products that have certain category of stuff like that. I'm going to send here category equals and whatever the ID of the category is. And then this part is going to go to the database, get all the categories, and send it back. Okay. So we're gonna display this part here. Well, not exactly like this, but we're going to display it as a JSON object. We're already familiar with JSON objects. Okay, so I'm just going to show you in PHP how to convert or encode to JSON. Okay, so JSON. So what we're going to do is the following, and you're going to do this a lot. So eventually you will learn it. We're going to use a function called JSON encode. And we're gonna create key value pairs, which that's the way we work with JSON. So we're gonna say first name, and then we're gonna do an arrow, first name, and then last name, another arrow, last name. And then we're gonna close out both parentheses. And we're gonna have a JSON object. Okay. So, but this is not very nice. Hold on. We don't want to show it that way. So what we're going to do is we're not going to use Chrome. We're going to use Postman. So what we're going to do here is, again, since we're using get to read the values, we're going to create a request, and the request should be get. We're actually only going to use two of them, get and post. But post is to send data to the server. Get is to retrieve or to read data from the server. So right now we're getting data from the server. So we're going to use get, and you're going to post the URL, but only up to index.php. You're going to put the URL. And we're going to put here the keys. That is the indexes that we want, the parameters that we want to send. So we're going to say first name. And we can say, I don't know, Steve. As you can see, it's being added up here, but it's easier to type them down here. Last name. Jobs. Okay, before we do this, I want you to go to the settings option up here, settings. And in the middle where it says language detection, change it to JSON. Okay? Got it?
Got it.
And now you can send it. And as you can see, you're going to get a JSON object, which is this one down here. Now, in the actually JSON objects, the key is encased in quotes. I forgot to change this one here. And if the value is a string or a date, it has quotes. If it's a number, it doesn't need quotes. Got it? Now, if you want to test whether or not you received the parameters, you don't have to erase them from here. You just unclick them, so that doesn't send them. So it's not sending one, so you get hello anonymous. But this isn't JSON, so we actually do want JSON there. So what we're going to do is JSON encode array error, and we're going to change this. We're going to say missing parameters. Okay, so we don't send one. We don't send one. We get missing parameters. If we send them both, then we're good. Got it?
Got it.
Any questions?
The echo is
Echo.
echo is the print, I think, no? And
It's kind of like print. Yeah, it's the display.
and why we sent the array to the page?
Because it's a associated array, meaning instead of indexes, we have names. So keys, value, key, value. Don't worry a lot about this. You're gonna use it exactly that way every time. Okay, so we're gonna do it a lot of times, and we're gonna use it the same way. So basically, it's the key, value, and so on.
Okay, and we can change that with the postman and send more easy.
Well, you can change what?
The value
The value, yeah, you can
in the postman.
mic here. Ah,
And that,
mic. And it changes. It receives the first name is Mike. So we get Mike, send it to the variable, and that's what we're displaying. First name, Mike.
okay.
And oh, Michael. Okay.
Okay, Professor.
Any other question?
No, not yet.
Okay, so now what we're gonna do is we're gonna start working. So we're gonna test everything with Postman. Okay, we're not gonna use the browser. So bye bye browser. We're gonna test everything until we connect this to the front end. Well, we're gonna start using Postman. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna create classes, and we're gonna actually call them models. So we're gonna create a new folder in our project, and we're gonna call that folder models. Mo- Models. And inside models, we're gonna create a new file, and we're gonna call it person.php. Okay. Now, last quadrimester, you studied object-oriented programming, correct?
Correct.
And in that object-oriented programming, you learn how to create a class, how to use attributes, how to use, in the case of C Sharp, properties, which have a get and a set, constructors, and all of that, correct?
Correct.
Okay, so I don't have to explain it again.
Mm, I don't think.
Okay, well, we're going to create a new class. That we're going to call person. Simple enough. Then we're going to add the attributes. Okay. Now, what does the word private mean here in this context?
The user won't see it.
I'm sorry? What was it? Again,
And you
oh,
can
the user won't see that? It's not the user. The user never sees classes.
you
It's
can
other developers, other
Mhm.
programmers won't see it. So a private member, and we're going to use the term member because it applies both to attributes and um, methods. Okay, so when something this is called accessibility. So when an attribute or a method, a member is private, it means that it is only accessible within the class. Okay, only within the class. You cannot access it from outside the class. If it's public, you can access it from wherever you want. And if it's protected, you can only access it from the class and from the derived classes. That means from the children, if you use inheritance. Okay? So in this case, the attributes are private. You cannot access them from the outside. So how do we access them if we cannot access the actual attributes? Anybody?
Can you repeat?
Sure. If the attributes are private, that means that we cannot access them from outside.
Mhm.
So exactly how are we going to access them if they're private?
You can access if you are in the class.
Yeah, but I want to access them from outside the class.
Outside the class, you need the constructor, I think.
Well, this is where in C sharp you use properties, right? Or you at least put get and set on your next to your
Oh, okay,
variable.
the understand. Oh, yes, yes, yes.
Okay, so those are called getters and setters. Getters and setters. And a getter is a method that we're going to use to read an attribute, to read it, to get it. A set a setter is a method that we're going to use to set the value of an attribute. Okay. In this case, both are going to be public. If not, we won't be able to read them. And they are actually methods. So in this case, it's functions. So we're going to go get first name. So this is a function. And in this case, when I read or when I invoke get first name, I'm actually going to return the value of first name. Now, what is actually this? Anybody know?
Is a like a pointer, but it's not a pointer.
Kind of, but what does it point to?
Hmm. You are setting a value to the first name, I think.
No, no.
Oh,
This, remember, when you do a class, when you define a class, you're actually defining what those elements are going to be. Okay, what a class is. You're defining a data type. When you create an object, you are creating basically a variable of that data type that you created. So an object, you can have many objects of the same class. Now, all those objects are going to have different values assigned to those different um, uh, properties. So, for instance, if you have first name, one object is going to have John, the other object is going to have Mary, and so on. Okay.
mm-hmm.
So, but inside the class, before you create any attribute, any objects, the way that you reference the object is actually with the keyword this. So this refers to the object. Imagine that you are objects of the person class, and inside your head, you use the object or the keyword me. So if I ask your first name, then you're gonna answer me dot first name or me arrow first name. If I ask your age, you're gonna return me dot age, and so on. Okay, you're not gonna have your inside your head you are me, and inside all of your heads you are me, and that references the object, the owner, which is, well, you. Okay, the
Okay.
same thing applies here. This references well, actually it says right there, references the current object. Okay, so it is whichever object you're talking about, it is that object. And then we're going to set the the first name. For this, we need to send a value. We're going to say value, and we're going to say this first name equals value. So whichever value I send here is going to be passed to the attribute first name. And I'm going to do the same for last name. So now I have my getters and setters. Got it?
But
Okay, now can you tell me what a constructor is?
mm, is construct the value. No, that is the variable to the class. Something.
A constructor is a method that you use to initialize the values of the object. Okay. Normally in C#, for instance, it is the name of the function is the same as the name of the class. But here it's not. The constructor is underscore underscore construct. Okay, so we're gonna do a very easy one. Say this first name equals nothing. This last name equals empty. Okay. Mm-hmm. And finally, we're going to create a method to represent the object as a JSON object. So represent as JSON. And we're going to call it to JSON. And instead of displaying, we're going to return it. And again, the same thing, JSON encode, array, first name. So most of the code should be in the classes, not outside the classes. So we're gonna assume that we want we want to display the object as a JSON in a whole bunch of different places. So we're gonna do this here once, and then we can use it whenever we want to show the object as a JSON. We just invoke to JSON. Okay. Okay, now we're going to go back to index. The first thing we need to do is use the file person. So we're going to say, I'm sorry, require once person.php. But it's not in, we have to go into the model folder to get it. So models / person.php. Okay.
Okay.
So that's the first thing. Now here we're gonna do it in one. Oh. So we're gonna create the object. We're gonna call it P for person. Then we're gonna set the values. And we're gonna do it this way to make it a little bit faster. The P, then an arrow, set first name. And it's gonna be set last name. And then we're gonna display it, but we don't have to display it as JSON here. We already have a method. So what we're gonna do is just echo P to JSON. Now the results should be the same, but now we're using classes. To J